All right, good morning, guys. I hope you guys are having a great day. And if you don't hear from me again, Happy New Year. We just have like 12 more hours or so, and it'll be a new year. We'll be in 2026. So, with that being said, what inspired me to make this video was a comment that I had on my previous Metroid Prime 4 related video, where I pretty much discussed the article that was written about. Well, not an article, but it was a Famitsu interview with the developers from Retro Studios about the game. And in that video, they explained how they were the ones who came up with the idea of trying to make Metroid Prime 4 an open world game or add open world elements into it because they were inspired by Breath of the Wild. So you can't get mad at Nintendo and blame Nintendo if you think that was a bad thing. I don't think it was a bad thing at all to add some open world elements to it. I don't think it was a bad thing at all to have these NPCs who play a role in the game, who you interact with. None of those things were a bad thing. I will say it is pretty stupid that Samus Aran herself doesn't talk. I am getting sick and tired of the mute bullshit in these Nintendo games. As much as I love Nintendo, they need to stop doing that. They need to stop making Link a freaking mute, Mario a mute, Samus Aran a mute. I was playing that game, Xenoblade Chronicles X. I got the Switch version when that finally came out. And it pissed me off how we were able to create our own character, right? You create your own character. You can even select a voice for that character. All just for him to be a fucking mute anyways and not talk during the damn cutscenes. He only talks during the gameplay when you're actually battling monsters or whatever. That's when he'll say some things, he'll talk, and I'm like, what the hell is the point in being able to create your own character, select his voice, if he's just gonna be a stupid mute who doesn't do anything but make fucking gestures and shit? That really pisses me off. I hate seeing the character that I play as look like a complete dummy who can't even say anything. That just really angers me. It kind of takes me out of the immersion. Now, anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked with that. It really is annoying. And, when I first discovered Metroid, I always thought that Samus, or the character that you play as, I always thought it was a robot because it looks like a robot, looks like a cyborg. And I was kind of disappointed when I found out it was a woman just dressed in a suit because I was just like, oh man, I thought it was a robot. But it's kind of funny how they make her a damn mute, so it might as well just be a robot at this point. Samus Aran might as well just be a cyborg. But anyways, not to get off track, there was a great comment on that video because I was explaining why the game was disappointing, whose fault it was, things like that. And I got this comment from somebody named Refreshment01. And he made a really good comment right here that I want to read. He made two great comments, actually. Right here it says, there were valid reasons for the adoption of pause/space philosophy, but those made sense in 1999 when they were trying to transition the Metroid formula to 3D space. Technology and design techniques weren't at the necessary level yet to achieve the transition perfectly, so they had to divert course a little and try something that worked within the limitations. This is why the focus on atmosphere and visor scanning was adopted. But what's the problem? This should have been an intermediate step. Retro stopped pursuing the original vision and started focusing on non-Metroid things. So basically, in other words, because they didn't have the technology to, make the game like a fast-paced shooter or anything like that, they couldn't really make it closer to the 2D Metroid games just in the third person or first person perspective. They had to go a little bit more with this exploration type gameplay where you're moving a little bit slow, you're scanning things, and it's more of an exploration type of game instead of the traditional, fast paced shooter like the 2D Metroid games, which are still the far better Metroid games, right? But anyways, at first I didn't really know entirely what he was talking about or what the original vision was. So I asked him, and he goes on to elaborate and say, the original vision as shared by key retro personnel during interviews was to achieve Super Metroid in 3D, which is not possible in 1999. So after Prime 1 came out, it's understandable why Samus felt like a tank. But let's say Retro was not capable of achieving this by themselves. We have seen games like Mirror's Edge, Titanfall, or Dying Light. So why the fuck in 2025 we still have Tank Samus? No running, no climbing, no sliding, wall jumping, no speed booster, shine spark. Prime 4 got rid even of the very limited screw attack implemented in Prime 2. The series just kept doubling down on fetch quests from Prime 1 to Prime 4. Now, I was very intrigued by this comment for several reasons, but the main one being how it kind of just made me realize, oh shit, that is actually true. A lot of the fun things into 2D Metroid games are not even in the Metroid Prime games. And I didn't realize that until he told me. Like, yeah, there is no wall climbing. There is no like screw attack. There is no sliding, no sprinting. It's really just Samus Aran moving around like a slow tank. And there's only like maybe the double jumping, and that's about it. But all these other things, like, yeah, you're just kind of walking really fast and that is it. And I'm just wondering to myself, why the hell are they so outdated with Metroid Prime? Now, I was actually searching the internet hoping that I could find this interview. But according to that same guy, this interview was in a magazine. He doesn't remember if it was Game Informer, Nintendo Power, or any of those, magazines from like, 1999 or early 2000s. We all remember those magazines. And if that's the case, it's probably likely we're not going to really find that interview anywhere online if these were things that were just written in magazines. I would like to do some extra research and hopefully find a magazine from that time period that does have this interview. And you can argue that this guy may be misquoting or misremembering. I'm going to take his word for it. I think he remembers correctly, and I think this is exactly what the original vision for Metroid Prime was to be a 3D version of Super Metroid. And that just makes absolute sense. And it makes sense that they couldn't do it at the time in 1999 because, games back then were all kind of the same, at least first-person shooters, where you're moving around like a tank. There's really no sprinting or anything like that. There's no wall climbing. But we are so past that at this point. And as he mentioned, we have examples like Titanfall, Mirror's Edge. I forgot the other one he named. I think it's that zombie game. But even before those games, I remember playing GoldenEye, the remake for the Nintendo Wii. And I remember all the sprinting you can do, taking cover and peeking, behind the wall to then shoot at somebody. Stuff like that. They had all these different things that you can do. And that is evolutionary to the first-person genre and whatnot. So why is it that, we're still doing this thing with Metroid Prime where it's so freaking outdated. It's like you're playing an N64 game. At this point, we should be able to sprint. We should be able to climb walls, slide, and do all these other cool things. And it just dawned on me, freaking Metroid Dread has all of that, and Metroid Dread is a way better game than Metroid Prime 4. That is a fact. You cannot try to tell me that Metroid Prime 4 is better. It's not. Metroid Prime 4, as good of a game as it is still very disappointing, and it does not take the Metroid Prime series to the next level. Not in the same way that Metroid Dread took the 2D Metroid games to the next level. Metroid Dread was so freaking awesome. It was so awesome, and not only was it the best 2D Metroid game, but it did feel like a love letter to Metroid fans when they brought back all of these different characters like Kraid, who I really want to see in a Metroid Prime game. It's so stupid how we got this giant awesome monster, right? The biggest and most ginormous monster in all of the Metroid games. Wouldn't it be insane to see that in the first person perspective? You walk into some giant room or whatever, you're on a ledge, and he pops up, and his giant face is right there in front of you, and he's just ginormous. Like, that would be so freaking insanely cool, But no, we didn't get that, and it pisses me off, and it makes me hate Retro Studios, because Retro Studios just doesn't want to do that. They don't want to bring back these awesome, villains from the 2D Metroid games at all. It's like, we had, Ridley in Metroid Prime 1. I don't believe he was in Metroid Prime 2 or 3. I could be wrong because I didn't beat those games. I beat Metroid Prime 1 and he was in it. And that was pretty cool how they brought him into that game. But for some reason, like this Metroid Prime 4 game, I mean, we've been waiting so long for it. They had 6 years to work on it, and it's like, shit, they couldn't even do cool nostalgic things with this game. They couldn't, bring back old original villains or anything like that. Yes, Silex is, he's been a villain for some time in recent Metroid games, and they've been wanting to make him an important character, but even him, like, they didn't really do much with him. From what I've heard, they didn't really do a whole lot in a lot of ways he became like an afterthought. Now, apparently the way the game ends, it's not over yet, and Silex is more than likely going to return in the 5th game. That 5th game better freaking be the game that ends up being the greatest Metroid Prime game. It ends up taking Metroid Prime to the next level. And yeah, it really better be, it better have online multiplayer, it better have all these great things to push the Metroid franchise, Metroid series even further. Now, one last thing I want to end on, and this is something that, I was talking about in my last video. When it comes to making Metroid Prime a much better game, taking the series to a whole nother level, I was talking about how you can still keep the exploration aspects to the game, exploring the world and looking at how grand and awesome it is and whatnot, exploring this alien planet. I talked about how it would be so much freaking better if instead of just it being like, you scan something, you scan a dead alien or an alien that's alive, and all it does is give you a diagram or a picture of that alien and a bunch of words to read. Instead of doing that, it would give you like a video with a voice narration explaining what the creature is, its history, its origins, how dangerous it is, and the last Federation trooper or the last, victim it attacked or killed, cool stuff like that. Stuff like that would just be so badass. It would make using the scanner, that much more fun. And I think more people who just hate using the scanner would be way more interested in using it. They would be more incentivized to do so. That's something they should be doing. See, the scanning thing, that's only in Metroid Prime. It's not in any of the 2D Metroid games, because it wouldn't make sense to have those in the 2D Metroid games. The 2D Metroid games are very fun, fast-paced and whatnot. They need to start making Metroid Prime more fast-paced, more fun. I was also talking about how, the open world aspects, it was a huge miss because it was way too empty. Why the hell didn't they have any damn pirates in Metroid Prime 4? Like, they're only in the beginning. Samus Aran and a bunch of space troopers and other people get transported to planet Vuros, right? And yet there's none of the space pirates got transported. It was just like these clones of Silex and I think Silex himself. Where the hell are the space pirates? Why aren't there these big epic battles going on in the big open world areas? That is something they should have done. I don't want to hear any morons say that that's not Metroid. Shut the hell up. I'm so sick and tired of you idiots, one-dimensional morons saying that Metroid Prime has to be isolated, has to be boring. No, fuck that bullshit, all right? It amazes me how Retro Studios continues to pander to you clowns and then wonder why their games don't sell that well. They don't sell that well because they're listening to the wrong people. They're listening to you idiots who keep saying, nope, it just needs to be like Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. Well, that's why the game isn't really selling that well when it should be. Or I shouldn't really say it should be, because, they really didn't do much with this game. Now, in that last Metroid video that I made, I go into great detail as to what I think happened, why they weren't able to make this game more epic. I think a lot of it had to do with this Fausti idiot, this stupid lady who was a fucking woke activist, piece of shit, saying that, Samus Aran should be trans. So I have no doubt that she put a lot of garbage into this game that they had to erase. They had to clean it up. They fired her in 2022. So she was working on the game, on a story from 2020 to 2022. You got some idiots acting like there's no way she's the reason why this game isn't that great. You really think one person... Well, look, stupid. She was in charge of the fucking story for 2 years before they finally got rid of her dumbass. So yeah, I'm pretty sure she did a lot of damage to this game. They had to go back, erase a lot of shit, fix it. Supposedly they kept a lot of the things that were put in. Now nobody really specifies exactly what that is, but if I had to guess, it's probably like Miles McKenzie, maybe the Fangirl, maybe some of those NPCs or whatever that you interact with. Here's the thing, they're not really that much of a problem. So them keeping that in the game, not an issue at all. So I think what happened was Nintendo and Retro Studios had to backtrack. Pun intended, I guess, they had to backtrack and they had to clean up a lot of bullshit that was in this game. And they didn't have enough time to make this a great epic game because of, one stupid idiot that they foolishly hired and put in charge of doing the story for this game. And a lot of people, that's one of the big things people complain about when it comes to this game, is the story. Saying that the story, there's not much of a story, the story sucks. It just seems like it's very dull and there's not a lot going on, whatever. So yeah, I mean, now that being said, so far I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it for what it is. I don't think the Metroid Prime games have ever been that big on the story. At least not Metroid Prime. I don't think Metroid Prime was that big. Now here's what I do want to say. Here's another thing I want to say now that I just thought of it. Samus Aran is a bounty hunter. Samus Aran is a bounty hunter. Why the hell do we not do any bounty hunting? There's never any bounty hunting going on. Never. She's not looking for someone. There's not a target that she's after. Any collateral that she's trying to collect. There's really never anything like that. And someone she's trying to arrest. A giant monster that's a problem that she needs to kill. No, these things just happen to come about as you're playing the game. There's actually no bounty hunting. So here's the thing. Here's another way they can make this game great. Even without adding online multiplayer, they could have made this game more fun by having a bounty hunter mode, right? She's a bounty hunter. Why isn't there like a bounty hunt mode or something where you're hunting for bounty in the same game, the same planet or whatever? Or even better, multiple planets, because that's what she does. She travels to different alien planets. See, we should be at the point now where we're traveling to multiple planets. Forget having a big open world game, but how about multiple planets to travel to that have these great, level designs and whatnot, great designs and everything like that, and they have different monsters. They got different enemies you have to fight, I don't remember the name of the enemies from Metroid Dread, but they definitely weren't space pirates. They were more like some type of Chozo tribe or whatever, these alien crow hybrids or whatever, like these birds, these humanoid birds or whatever that you had to fight against. They were trying to assassinate you. They were trying to kill you. I mean, I don't know why we don't have them in the game. We barely had the space pirates. We didn't have the space pirates really at all in Metroid Prime 4. There should have been more stuff like that. And you could sprinkle that in the main campaign as well. That would have made the game more fun, where it's not just overly linear. The game is so linear. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, there's backtracking and cool stuff like that, but it doesn't change the fact that the game is linear because there's only really one path. Like, there's only one way to advance in this game. And so therefore, it's a very linear experience, but it's still cool how they still have a lot of the backtracking and whatnot. That makes the Metroid Prime games what they are. That being said, though, there should be more battles. There should be more action. It shouldn't be the slow-paced game. It should be more like Super Metroid, where there's sliding, sprinting, wall climbing, screw attacks, all this other cool stuff. All of that should be in this game. They need to stop being so outdated with this game, with this series, and take it to that next level. That big open world, why wasn't there more like action going on where you have Federation troopers and space pirates attacking each other? You're driving around and shooting at them. Hell, you get to a point where you find your spaceship and now you're able to fly around those zones and just start dropping bombs or whatever on these enemy pirates and everything like that, helping your troopers, advance and whatnot. They need to start doing more stuff like this. It can't just be the same damn game, all right? It could still have all, like, it could still be 90% isolation, and you're on your own, and you're going into dangerous territory all by yourself, and it's really scary. You could hear monsters moving around. They can still have all of that cool stuff, but they need to add battles. They need to have more shit going on behind the scenes. And maybe even make a mode called Isolation Mode for all of the pretentious, Metroid fans out there, the purists or whatever. So that way they can just be all by themselves and lonely. Just like how they are in real life, just lonely with no friends, whatever. Okay? Anyways, yeah, this has been quite a video and a discussion here, but like I said, I do hope I could find that interview, that magazine interview and whatnot, and I hope that's actually true, which I think it is. It just makes sense. It makes sense that the original vision for this game was for it to be a 3D version of Super Metroid. They just didn't have the technology at the time, but they do now. So why do they continue to make Samus Aran move around like a slow tank? Why is the gameplay just still lame, slow, and boring in comparison to games like Metroid Dread? By the way, supposedly there's a rumor that they're gonna do an update for Metroid Dread, like a Switch 2 version. Man, do I hope they implement some kind of online multiplayer. 4 versus 4, multiple different fun modes to make the game feel fresh and brand new would be so freaking awesome. Guys, what do you think? Do you think that was the original vision for this game? Do you think the original vision was to make it more like a Super Metroid? And since then, they have completely lost sight of the vision, and now all they do is keep making the Metroid Prime games, just like every other Metroid Prime game, with a few added things in, like the NPCs, a little bit of open world and stuff like that. What do you guys think they can do to make this game so much better? What can they do to take this series to the next level? Again, it is a great game. It's a really great Metroid Prime game, but that doesn't change the fact that it's also a very disappointing game. Extremely disappointing. Extremely disappointing. And a lot of people are saying, well, a lot of the reason it took long for them to make this game is because they had to rebuild the foundations and the engine and all this stuff. Well, it's like, what the hell? Okay, Masahiro Sakurai was able to give us Kirby Air Riders, and the last Kirby Air Ride game was on the GameCube about 22 years ago. I mean, it didn't take him that long to make such a freaking awesome game. It only took him like 3 years. Retro Studios had 6 years, and it really took them this freaking long to give us what they gave us. That's unacceptable to me, guys. That's very unacceptable. Anyways, that's about it. You guys let me know what you think about Metroid Prime 4. What do you think? Do you think Metroid Prime 5 will be better? What are the reasons this game was a disappointment, at least to you personally? What do you think was the cause of it? And with that being said, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good one, and Happy New Year.